I will show you how to install and set up completely. Okay, small parts, only 20 minutes, like we'll discuss. So more time discuss is we'll forget everything. Last time we will remember. Okay, so we'll start. What is Active Directory? Active Directory domain services. Okay, so Active Directory is the world only single name is Active Directory. Now 2008 server onwards, Active Directory domain services, and it is related service from foundation of enterprise network run Windows operating system. So the name it is came from the Windows operating system part only. It's not a common terminology. It is only in a Windows. ADDS database is a central store of all domain objects such as user accounts, computer accounts, and group. ADS provides searchable hierarchical directory, provide method for applying configuration security settings for object in the enterprises. Okay, so what is it is saying? It is this is not a definition of thing, but lot of places you will find that one only because Active Directory the name it is came from the okay enterprise Windows operating system places only. So to control the whole Windows machines using a centralized server. So the Active Directory concept is came up. Okay, so that is the thing. From foundation of enterprise network and run Windows operating system. The central store of all domain objects such as user accounts, computer accounts, group are there. Okay, but here is the two parts of definition is there. You have to compulsory note down. So what is Active Directory database? Stores information on user identity, computers, groups, and services and resources. ADDS domain controller also hosts a service that authenticate users, computer accounts when they log on to the domain. Okay, because ADDS store information that all about all the objects in the domain and all the users and computer must connected to ADDS domain controller when signing into the network. So it is a little bit tricky. So ADDS is a primary means by which you can configure and manage network and computer accounts on your network. On your network means through your network. Okay. So we are controlling the client things. Okay, one second. I want these two lines, so that's why I'm copying it, putting into a notepad for an Active Directory part. Okay. What is an Active Directory? Active Directory is a directory which provide a service to store the database of user, computer, group, and service and other resources. So these are the important things. No. This is back. So we'll cut from here. Here, this is the good one. Next point. There is a 2 points you have to tell in an Active Directory. So these 2 points. And Active Directory domain controller also hosts a service that authenticate user and computers. So it will authenticate the user and computers in the network. Okay, that is when they log on to domain. So this is about your Active Directory. Next, we'll go to the definition. Like there is a physical component and logical component. Physical component means server is a physical component. Server is a physical, right? Server contain a hard disk. It's a physical component, right? So where you store the data in a hard disk, that is a physical component. Domain controller is a server. It is a physical component. Global catalog server. It is a server. Your server is nothing but a global catalog server. It is also there is a global catalog service is there for single one. Okay, that's a global catalog physical. RODC that is also domain controller. Read only domain controller that is also domain controller. It means it's a physically exist. Logical components means physical we can't see. We are dividing it like you have a hard disk. Hard disk is a physical one, but you have a C drive, D drive, E drive. It's a logical drives. It's a logical drives, right? That is logical component. Logically, logically it's available. Logical separation. We are not separating physical. We are not cutting hard disk into pieces, right? So same thing. It's a logical partition. Logical components. But partitions are different, and what I'm explaining. But to understand what is logical means, it is actually not physically separated. Okay, it is inside a physical part only. We are taking things into the logical one. That's what is a logical component. The words, the terms here it is are logical only, not a physical entities. Logical entities on physical only. Logical entities are separate and physical entities are separate, not like that. Okay. So what is the partition? Here is the question is okay. I'll add here only. So they said a partition, right? In a party, this is not a disk partition, guys. So this is a ADDS partitions. Okay. So domain partitions. Active Directory is a database, right? So ADDS. So database. What is the name of the database is ntds dot dit. What is the ntds dot dit? New technology. Okay, new technology. NT, new technology. Whenever you see in Windows, NT means new technology. Okay, directory service. Yeah, this is what I'm typing. Directory service. Directory information tree. Okay, new technology directory service. Directory information tree. So there is a dot. Why I put a dot? There is a dot is there. So dit means directory information tree. So this is the name of the database. Along with there is a some more files are there in a folder. So active directory database stores in p colon slash windows system 32 nt. Okay, so I will put a direct name ntds folder. Okay, so I will show you the location directly, so that's why I'm remove that one. Okay, so it is a directory, and this database has partitions. It is as a partitions. So what are the partitions? What are the partitions in a? Now I'll remove this thing. Active directory database. So we'll type in a caps ADDS. Active directory database. So the database name is ntds.dit and contains a partitions. What are the partitions are there? Domain partition. Okay, the partition is domain partition, schema partition, configuration partition, and application partition. There are the four partitions: configuration partition, schema partition, domain partitions, and application partition. So in domain partition contains user, group, computer, services, what kind of service, and domain services and resources. So what is resources means printer, scanner, and all kind of stuff comes under resources only. Okay, so if you want to search, then you can also search. Okay, ntds adds partitions. I need a world sites anything. Okay, anyway, I will show you that one. So I will show you the partition part. So look it carefully. Mm, Here it is. Schema partition, configuration partition, domain partition. So mainly three partitions. Schema partition. So first they put a schema partition, anything no problem. Schema partition, configuration partition, domain partition, application partition. This is a optional partition. It's optional. So mainly three partitions are important: schema, configuration, and domain partition. The first two partitions are common for all domains in the forest because I didn't speak about forest. So I will tell the forest kind of stuff later. Okay. So this is our three partitions, not C drive, D drive as per the PPT. Okay. A schema, domains, domain tree, forest, site, and OUs. These are all the logical partitions. So here is the definitions. What is schema? Okay, what is schema? Define the list of objects and attributes that all objects in the ADDS have. So there is a schema is given. And what is a domain? A logical administrative boundary for users and computers. So what is it? Again, what is a domain? A logical and administrative domain. A logical and administrative boundary for users and computers. What is a domain controller? So for you, instead of reading from the PPT, you can read the PPT if you have a time. If you have a time, then you can read it there. Okay, so then it contains a copy of a database. So your domain controller is nothing but a server, physical server. Okay? So if you have a time to read it, you can read it, no problem. Otherwise, I'll put this one also. So better you should have a little bit definitions. So global catalog. Okay. Next is a domain tree. Domain tree is a collection of domain that share a common root domain and DNS namespace. That is a tree. What is a forest? A collection of domain that share a common ADDS. I will explain each and everything. Child domain is not there, so in this one, so we'll see that one later. In this definition, child domain is not. Next is OU. So everything will be one side, so then you need to spend a lot of time to search and read it. So many things. Anyway, you don't do it, but generally that is there. So I'm preparing a notes for you. Right. Yeah, group policy, these things you have to fill it. So if I forget also you should tell me. Okay. So this is about your Active Directory. So then go to what is the Active Directory. Okay. So I know domain. Domain is a logical administrative boundary for users and computers. What is a domain controller? It's nothing but a server which contains a copy of ADDS and which giving ADDS service. Okay. It is also give Active Directory domain service. Provide Active Directory domain service. Okay. Where we install in domain controller. If you install only, it will become a domain controller. And what is a forest and all? I will explain that child forest kind of stuff. Okay. Global catalog and all. I will explain that. Okay. So I didn't copy the schema. So schema is also important one. OU. So this is schema. Okay. So these are our definitions. Okay. So I'm going up. Okay. So when the people are asking what it is, then you can tell answers. So now I'm going to my I want to first explain what is this and all kind of stuff. Okay, don't say not required. So this is the forest. Forest. What is the forest? What is forest? It's nothing but your enterprise. It's nothing but your enterprise. What is enterprise? Organization, company. That is your enterprise, right? Just for example, Tata is an enterprise, right? When the Tata is organization started, maybe they started with one company, right? Then maybe they started with one only, right? So I will put a cash because Tata is a pride, okay, one company. But later on days, how many Tata organizations came up? Okay, but all the Tata things under same roof or not? Think. So, for example, TCS, Tata Communication Service, Tata Steel, Tata Steel is there, okay? Tata Steel is there, Tata Steel is there, Tata Telecom, so Telecommunications, okay? So TCS, Tata Steel, Tata Telecom, okay? Telecommunication related. What is the name? I don't know. So okay. So with both we mobile and both the things are there, but now both are gone. So there are away from the business. So how many people? Someone is again missing. Okay. So under Tata, what are there? So under Tata, what are there? So TCS is there, Tata Steel is there, Tata Telecom, anything? Tata Motors, okay. Tata Motors is there, Tata tractors are there, car, bikes, or else something is came up, right? So Tata software companies are there, Tata Motors are there, right? So first Tata is started one industry, then it is become a multiple industry, right? So then different industries, but all are in a single roof only. Guys, understand? Tata is a first enterprise. Tata is a first enterprise. In Tata, they started different things. Like actually, Tata people started Tata Steel. I think so. Tata Steel. Tata Aviation is there earlier, but that is not completely pick up. But I don't know about that stories and all. But they started with the steel industry, then other businesses, Tata Communication, telecommunication related thing, Tata Motors, Tata Communication Services, like that, right? So these are all came later, but all are in same enterprise. Understand? All are in same enterprise. That we call it as a forest. That we call it as a forest. Okay. So here, just for example, for our understanding, I'm taking Tata.com. This is the first one, right? So this is nothing but a forest. Forest domain controller. The first domain controller in the forest. It is nothing but first domain controller. First domain, and as well as the server is first domain controller in the forest. Okay. So it's a first forest domain controller, and it is a first domain in the forest, and it is a first, the server is first domain controller. So that is a your forest. What is your forest name is Tata.com. Now later I have a lot of industries, so maybe I'm getting different domains. So I'm getting like this TCS.com. Okay, TCS.com. This is a why? But TCS is a part of Tata Enterprise only. But it is a separate domain. But it is a separate domain. It's a tree domain. For example, um, Tata Motors.com. Motors, right? Motors, spellings. Okay. So Tata Motors.com. So for example, I have a Tata Motors.com or a TM.com. This is also a tree. Okay. So, but TCS.com, Tata Motors.com, both are in same enterprise. It means both are in same forest, but separate domains. Separate domains. Okay. So that's why it is called as a tree domain trees. These are all called a domain trees. For example, under Tata Motors, I have a separate branch is there, a sub branch is there. For example, currently electrical cars also coming, right? So I put a electric dot Tata Motors.com. This is called a child domain. This is a tree domain, and this is a tree domain, and this is called a child domain. What is a child domain means? It has a parent name and it's a separate domain. Child domain is a separate domain, but it has a parent name. So that is a child domain. That is a child domain. Just for example, I told that one. Okay. So that is a electric one, or maybe petrol, or maybe farmers related, or anything like you can take any example. Okay, why Tata is a best example for our enterprises thing? It's a very old and lot of enterprises are there, so we can give an example. Little bit common knowledge on the Tata is good. Reliance we don't know, so Reliance, one day it is there, another is Reliance infrastructure is there, but still we don't know where it is. So like that. Okay. So I'm not against to anyone, but I'm not favorite anyone. This is the best example compared to it. So one day I given this example in my previous organization CMS. The people asked for a give example for a CMS. Better instead of Tata, why you are giving Tata example, you give example CMS example, and because it's a also an organization CMS IT services is there, cash management. Okay, so many other things also there, but we don't. Everybody don't know. Student don't know the CMS entire organization tree. And myself, I don't know much knowledge, but Tata is a common knowledge on everybody. So I think you guys got it. What is a forest? Forest is nothing but enterprise. Enterprise means there is a starting one name we start. So any enterprise we start with the one name only, right? So like a Tata.com we started. That is a forest level domain controller. Okay, or a first domain controller in the forest. Okay, forest name it itself, it is a forest name, and the domain controller in the forest is the first domain controller, and it is the first domain automatically become forest, first domain in the forest. Okay, it's a primary domain controller. Root also we can say this is, okay, also we can say it's nothing but root domain. Okay, root domain controller. Okay, so subdomain. So there is other domains in the forest other than tata.com. If you have any other domains, that is called a tree domains. Okay, which is called a tree domains. In the tree domains also having a subdomains also there. Just for example, Tata Motors is having a electric dot Tata Motors.com. It's a child domain of the Tata Motors.com tree domain. Okay, like that. So this is a tree domain. So the symbolic representation of forest is like the big zero, like that. Okay, the whole, the represent is not zero. It is like a whole. So this is a your forest. This is a forest. The representation of domain is nothing but a triangle symbol. The domain is always represent with a triangle, not inverted triangle. The meaning will change. Triangle symbol is a representation of domain. Tata.com. So this is first I created. If I create this domain, then only forest will create. Without creating a domain, you can't create a forest. Okay. And the representation of domain controller is like this. Is a rectangle symbol kind of stuff. This is a domain controller. Okay. This is a domain controller. So this is a domain controller. Okay. So this domain controller is make this domain, right? So without a domain controller, you can't create a domain. So the domain is a forest level domain controller. And in the domain, logically, this is a logical one, right? So this is my tcs.com, for example. This is a tcs.com. Okay. This tcs.com also in the forest, but separate domain. Just we have a connection. That's it. Okay. So this is a what I said, Tata Motors.com, right? So this is a Tata Motors.com, which is also in the same enterprise only. Everything is in one single roof only. And here I have another domain which is under this one. This domains under my forest, but this is under this one. Maybe you can type like this. It is coming out, but still okay. No problem. Try to understand everything is in inside only. So I put a electric dot Tata Motors.com. So this is a Tata Motors.com. So this is a child domain. These two are trees, and this is the child. This is a tree domain. This is a tree domain, and this is a tree domain. No, no, this is what child. Okay. So here, when we are installing Active Directory part, okay, so we have to choose. First, we have to install the forest. So once forest is completed, then you can choose it different. And each domain having a separate domain controller. They have a separate domain controller. It means separate servers are there. A domain, so remember guys, this one, a domain has, okay, a domain has multiple servers. Okay, has a multiple servers. Domain has a multiple server, but one server one server has only one domain. So okay, one server we can only put a one domain only. We cannot put multiple domains, single server. But a domain can have a multiple servers, multiple physical servers. You can able to have it. So that's a remember that point. Okay, always. So this is the forest. Forest is the name we call it as a enterprise domain controller. That's it. This domain controller also called as a enterprise domain controller. Administrator of this domain controller is a enterprise administrator. That's why I put a enterprise. Why it is the domain controller. So I'll use the red color here. So this domain controller is a enterprise domain controller. Enterprise domain controller. Administrator of this domain controller. Administrator of this domain controller is an enterprise administrator. Enterprise administrator means he has a whole rights on all the domains and domain users, computers, okay, their resources. Yes, all rights. It's a full domain control, full powerful person like a prime minister. Okay, like a prime minister only. Okay, like Ratan Tata, right? So who is the current Tata CEO? Anyone? Current Tata CEO. Ratan Tata is retired. Is but still giving commands also. Who is current CEO of Tata? This candidate, Natarajan Chandra Shekhar, what? Chandrasekharan. Natarajan Chandrasekharan. Okay, so these are the previous one. Gopinath is also gone. Okay, so Cyrus Misri is a old one. So he got some controversies. He's gone. Okay, so it's a current one is this candidate. I think so. CEO Natarajan Chandrasekharan. Okay, but he didn't get a popular. He got a popular, but the remaining people are not popular. Okay. The important question is not that one. Important question is who is the CEO of Cognizant? I need that answer. Who is the CEO of Cognizant? Anybody knows Cognizant CEO?
Brian Humphreys.
Brian Humphreys. Founder?
Kumar Mahadeva.
Yeah, very good. Kumar Mahadeva, San Francisco D'Souza. San Francisco D'Souza, something is there. So enter Cognizant. We have to go to only Cognizant. We'll find. Okay, so yeah, Kumara Mahadeva and Francisco D'Souza. Kumara Mahadeva is Sri Lankan and Francisco D'Souza is Goa. Okay, they started company in India only actually. Millions. Then now current CEO is Brian Humphreys. Okay, headquarters in New Jersey, Teaneck, New Jersey. 2019 revenue is 1680 crores in USD. 1680 in crores. That means 1.6 billion. You can say 1 billion means 100 crores. 1 billion means 100 crores, guys. That is also question. Okay. Interview means they can ask anything. You can't expect what they will ask. Okay. 1 billion means 100 crores. 1 million means 10 lakhs. So the 2019 revenue is 1.68 billion or 1680 crores as per the Google search. Founded in 94 January 26. Headquarters New Jersey. brain hamfres. Otherwise, put it in a Google Talk and tell it like spell it. You know, so Google CEO, then it will come brain hamfres. Repeat multiple times. You should spell properly. Okay, I don't know how to spell properly also. Okay, there's a lot of confusion in that. Okay, see, this is a administrator of entire your forest, their domain, PCs, users, and everything. Okay, so each individual domain has their separate domain database. Okay, users of Tata.com, not a users of TataMotors.com. Users of TataMotor.com, not a users of electric.tatamotors.com. Means every domain controller has their own database, and the database contains user group and computers that is belongs to that domain only. That is belongs to that domain only. Okay, but whenever the other domain people want to communicate, for example, TCS person want to log in a tatamotors.com, he can log in because of global catalog services will tell you there are belongs to same forest. If you are in a same forest, you can able to log in. If you are in the same forest, you can able to log in. So understand that one. If you are in the same forest, you can log in to one domain to another domain because within the forest, it's a security boundary. Forest is a security boundary. Domain is a administrative boundary. Forest is a security boundary. It is a security boundary of all the domains. Forest is a security boundary of all the domains. So remember that one, and also you can add the point at forest. Forest is a security boundary of all the domains in the forest. Within the forest, each domain can trust each other. Within the forest, we can able to trust each other. So that is your forest thing. Okay. So here in the domains, again in the domain. So I am going to tell like there is a domain controller. So it is in red color, black color, black color. Okay. We have a domain controller, right? So domain controller, we call it as we say it is a DC. So we call it as a DC. Okay. And there is a additional domain controller. This is called a ADC. Okay. Additional domain controller. Domain controller, additional domain controller, read only domain controller. There's the three type of domain controllers are there currently. RO, DC. DC, ADC, RODC. DC is a main domain controller. DC is a main domain controller. ADC is a for backup, and DC is a main domain controller. ADC is for a backup and load balancing purpose. ADC is a backup and load balancing purpose. RODC is for branches. If I have a branches where less security is there, but still I need a ADC or DC there. So to avoid the login to the DC. So what I done, I create RODC means database is same. The database is same in DC, ADC, RODC. For example, DC has a 10 users, 5 PCs, 5 computers. ADC also having a 10 users, 5 computers, same database without changes. DC, ADC, RODC carries same database, but DC is a main domain controller, primary domain controller. Okay, it's a primary domain controller. ADC is for a backup purpose, backup domain control. In olden days, for instead of calling DC, they call this one as a PDC. So when you see a PDC, does not mean it is different one. So it is meaning is same thing only. Backup domain controller. So for a BDC, ADC, it is a backup domain controller. RODC old names are not there, but it is read-only domain controller. Okay, it's a read-only purpose. It's a read-only purpose means it contains a database. It will give you authorization, but we cannot change the data in the RODC. But we can change the data in DC and ADC. Okay, so this is the thing. So here totally how many are there? Root domain controller. Root domain means forest level domain controller. Tree domain controller, child domain controller is there. Okay, remember those three things. Three things: forest or root, tree, child. Okay, next DC, ADC, RODC. DC, ADC, RODC. Remember these things. Okay, next. So here I said domain controller, right? So what is a domain controller? Is a DC, right? So domain controller is nothing but DC. Okay. So here DC, ADC, RO, DC. I told three DCs, right? So DC means domain controller. Okay. RODC. Sorry, ADC. Additional domain controller. RODC. Read only domain controller. Only. Okay. Only domain controller. So I told this is the primary domain controller. So this is that's why we call it as a PDC. If I said PDC means primary domain controller. This is a backup domain controller. BDC. Okay. So here is a different purpose are there. Domain controller is a primary domain controller. It's a PDC, but ADC or BDC. This is for load balance. Okay, this is for a load balancing purpose and failover or fault tolerance. Failover or fault tolerance. Fault tolerance. What is a fault tolerance or a failure means if if PDC fail, then BDC or ADC. So I'm giving a PDC like BDC. Okay, give authentication. If PDC load increases, if PDC load increases, BDC balance it. Okay, so this is it. Okay, next RODC. What is the purpose of RODC? Okay, it contains same database as DC ADC, but we can't alter in RODC. Okay, only same database it will maintain, but we can't modify the data, and it provide authentication, authentication and authorization. So just so understand this is the DC thing. Next, forest is like a enterprise. Okay, so it's a forest means like a enterprise. Okay, and forest also we call as a root domain controller. Okay, so root domain controller or forest domain controller. First domain and domain controller also. First DC. Okay, so this is in the forest. Okay, under forest. Okay, lot of tree domains will be there. Okay, under a domain, either it is forest or a tree. Okay, so child domain will come up. So you can follow the picture. Picture contains good neat explanation is also there. Okay, administrator of forest DC is nothing but an enterprise admin. Okay, is nothing but admin for all. It means all gods. If you see a movie like God of Egypt kind of stuff, so you will understand. Okay? That's it, guys. So up to now, okay, up to now. So little bit theory is there. So this is enough, I think so.